Hello and welcome to Chicory's maintenance series. This week we're doing some diagnostic work on the engine and transmission. So Tracy's going to zoom in here and you can see that we have a little door that flips open that gives us access to the coupler in the back of the transmission. And you'll also notice that we have our pan, tilt, zoom camera here. Now one of the things that happened in the Bahamas was that the screen got a little bit of oil on it. And you can see some oil marks here on the inside of the cover. Now that's coming from the seal that's at the back of the transmission. Now if I feel right now it's completely dry. I'm not sure, you can see it's not a whole lot, but I wasn't expecting any. So coincidentally also while that was happening, it seemed to me that when I would shift into gear, the transmission or something would clunk just a little bit louder than normal. And this is just something that you sort of notice over time how your boat sounds. And it just seemed a little different. It wasn't dramatic or anything. So I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to scoot back just a little so Tracy can see. I have a dial indicator on the support. This is the support that goes to the engine beds and goes all the way up to the mizzen mast. And I have my dial indicator set on the engine mount. So these two are independent. So Tracy's going to start the engine and we're going to be putting it in and out of gear, and I'm going to be looking at not only this dial indicator to see if the engine is moving, which will indicate that our engine mounts are getting old, and I also be looking at the transmission, seeing if there's any clunking sound coming from there. She'll be at the helm, I'll be wearing a headset, she'll be wearing a headset so we can communicate, and I'll be just using the camera to kind of film stuff while we do this. So hang in there. So it seems like my memory is serving me well. There was more noise. So I'm going to tell you a couple things. In the past, this front part of the coupling that goes into the transmission, this has a spline shaft that it couples to inside the transmission. And that was loose. The spline had actually loosened over time and it would clunk back and forth because the spline was loose. Now that was the same forward and reverse because of course it was absorbing backlash. And so as the spline would slip, it'd clunk a little bit and you could actually feel it moving. If I thought it was that, I would remove the coupler and just play with the transmission. But I don't think it's that because reverse makes a much larger, more noticeable noise than forward. The same thing goes for the dampening plate that connects the flywheel to the input shaft of the transmission. It's a plate that has a spline shaft once again, and it has springs around it to absorb the shock of going back and forth to forward or reverse. And I replaced that about 2,000 hours ago. I don't think that has anything to do with it either, because once again, if that was starting to fail, I would suspect to hear forward and reverse very, very similar. So I tempted to say it's something internal to the transmission, but I'm going to do some research and figure out what people say about noise that comes from reverse more than forward. I just want to give you a quick update in the middle of this video. I was just telling you that I was going to do some research, and I did, and so I'm just going to interject what the research is. So I talked to Velvet Drive. My transmission is a Borg-Warner Velvet Drive 72 series with a 2.91 to 1 reduction. And Regal Beloit owns the corporation now. They've bought all of the stuff from Borg-Warner. So I contacted them directly, told them about my issue, and asked some questions. And they did some probing. And I explained to them at 2018, I had an issue with the coupler at the back of the shaft, like I told you, where the spline was worn, and it was giving me some backlash. And they thought that that might be the issue again. I'm a little skeptical, but I'm going to follow up on their ideas. But I wanted to show you what happened back in 2018 to give you sort of a prep, so you know what's coming down the road, because I'm going to do the same kind of research I did back in 2018, and that will be in an upcoming video. But in the meantime, this is what happened in 2018. In 2018, I noticed that there was a clunking noise also, and you can see right now I'm moving the output shaft part of the coupler. This is the splined area that I was telling you about. This is the flat plate that connects to the coupler that's on the shaft, and then a shaft goes inside, and there's a female coupler, and you can see a nut there that holds this on. Once I remove the coupler, you can see here now kind of an overview of what the inside of that spline looked like. You can see that there's quite a bit of wear, and I'm going to zoom in on this and show you with a little bit more detail what's exactly going on. So you can see here at the red arrow, that's the full size of the spline teeth. The green arrow is showing that basically half of the tooth was worn away, and that was making quite a bit of room, and once it started making more room, it started to wear more. And you can see at the orange arrow, sort of at the middle, there's even some unusual sort of bulging wear in the tooth profile. It was very interesting. So I just replaced this spline back in 2018 and haven't had an issue since. It was a relatively simple and straightforward replacement. The transmission only had like 13 or 1400 hours on it, so it was a pretty early failure, and I'd be surprised if it is again. But Velvet Drive said that they would think if it was an internal issue, I would hear more grinding instead of clunking. So they said, check here first. So that's what I'm going to do. And while I work on that research, I'm going to end this video. And thank you for subscribing, liking, commenting, and viewing, of course. Until next week, thank you.